A few minutes ago, the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation updated the data on the Ukrainian army's casualty figures in the Kursk region. So, according to the Russian Defense Ministry, as of January 20, 2025, the Ukrainian army's total losses in the Kursk region amounted to 52,670 soldiers, 180 armored personnel carriers, 240 infantry fighting vehicles, and 310 tanks. At the same time, the Russian military department notes that despite the catastrophic losses of the Ukrainian army in manpower and equipment, the Ukrainian High Military Command continues to transfer reserves to the area of the settlement of Sudza to slow down the advance of Russian troops. Moreover, it is reported that despite the complete failure of the recent Ukrainian army's offensive in the Burden area, the Ukrainian command continues to float plans for organizing another so-called counteroffensive. Sources in the Russian military department claim that this offensive by Ukrainian troops could be held shortly after the inauguration of Donald Trump. A number of reputable Russian military experts also confirmed that the Kiev regime will try to organize another so-called counteroffensive in the Kursk region. In particular, they said that before meeting with Donald Trump, it is important for the head of the Kiev regime, Volodymyr Zelensky, to show the new head of the White House that the Ukrainian army is still capable of conducting successful counteroffensive actions. At the same time, Volodymyr Zelensky absolutely does not care how many Ukrainian soldiers will die during this so-called counteroffensive. For this comedian, the most important thing is to impress Donald Trump and get another large sum of money from his Western masters. Well-known military journalist and analyst, Yuri Podolyak, also said that he expects major battles to begin in the Kursk region after the inauguration of Donald Trump. Yes, judging by what is happening, the Kiev regime is preparing another offensive in the Kursk region, Yuri Podolyak said. At the same time, he expressed confidence that the Ukrainian army would once again suffer a crushing defeat, having lost thousands of soldiers killed and wounded. In the Vremyevsky direction of the front, after the liberation of the settlement of Vremyevka by the Russian army, the situation of the Ukrainian grouping in the city of Velyka and Novosilka deteriorated rapidly. It is reported that the Russians launched an assault on the city from 5 sides at once. At the moment, Russian units have managed to enter the city from the south, east, and north. At the same time, war correspondents note that the Ukrainian troops are unlikely to be able to escape the city, since the only escape route is blocked by a natural barrier in the form of the Mokry Yili River, which is constantly being shelled by the Russian artillery. Thus, we will soon witness not only the liberation of the strategically important city of Velyka and Novosilka, but also the surrender of an entire Ukrainian grouping. Meanwhile, war correspondents reported on another success of the Russian troops in the most important direction of the front, Pokrovsk. In particular, on January 19 at 9 a.m. Moscow time, war correspondents confirmed the liberation of the settlement of KOTLINO by the Russian army. According to them, the liberation of this settlement allowed the Russian army to cut the railway, connecting cities such as Pokrovsk and Dnipro. Moreover, on the same day, building on their success, Russian troops entered the settlement of Udaknoy on the move. It is reported that as of January 20, 2025, 60% of the territory of this settlement is under the Russian army's control. Thus, the Russian army has significantly reduced the distance to the border with the Dnipropetrovsk Oblast, and is located only 5 kilometers from this major region of eastern Ukraine. It is noteworthy that Ukrainian and Western sources do not comment on the successes of the Russian army in Donbass. However, they admit that the most important city in Donbass, Pokrovsk, will soon come under the full control of the Russian army. By the way, the retreating Ukrainian army began to blow up all the coal mines in Pokrovsk direction of the front. This means that Kiev has come to terms with the fact that Ukraine has lost these territories forever. And all the slogans of Ukrainian propaganda that all the lost territories will be liberated are just an attempt to get more money from Western leaders. On the morning of January 19th, war correspondents also confirmed the successes of Russian troops in the Kurakhovo direction of the front. In particular, war correspondent Andrei Rudenko stated that the Russian army had completely liberated the settlement of Yasenovoy and entered the urban-type village of Novoandreevka on the move. Currently, Russian army units have managed to gain a foothold on the outskirts of Novoandreevka. A member of the Civic Chamber of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Rogov, also confirmed the liberation of Yasenovoy. According to him, the Russian flag was raised over the settlement on January 19 at 11 a.m. Moscow time. Vladimir Rogov also thanked the Russian soldiers for continuing to liberate and return historical Russian lands to their native harbor. Against this backdrop, I would like to note the feat of a Russian soldier with the call sign Bosyak in the Kurakhovo direction of the front. In particular, a few hours ago, the commander of the 110th Motorized Rifle Brigade of the Russian Army told journalists that during the storming of the city of Kurakhovo, a Russian soldier with the call sign Bosyak single-handedly took an entire Ukrainian army unit prisoner. According to him, this Russian soldier went towards the Ukrainian positions in the area of high-rise buildings. A Russian fighter, surrounded by dozens of Ukrainian soldiers, persuaded them to lay down their arms and surrender. In particular, he told them that their continued resistance was useless, and that they should not die for the sake of the Kiev regime and their Western masters. During this conversation, the Ukrainian soldiers decided to lay down their arms and surrender. Thus, thanks to the brave and decisive actions of this Russian soldier, Russian troops managed to avoid unnecessary bloodshed and took an entire Ukrainian army unit prisoner, without firing a single shot. Unfortunately, the next day, during the withdrawal of Ukrainian prisoners of war from Kurakhovo, this Russian soldier came under fire from enemy artillery, as a result of which he was mortally wounded and died. According to the commander of the 110th Motorized Rifle Brigade, thanks to such fearless heroes as Bosyak, the Russian army continues to remain invincible and strike fear into the hearts of Russia's enemies.